All right, Lee Santo here again, out at the firearms range. We're continuing on with our series on basic weapons handling. We've talked about firearm safety. We've talked about how to check and see if a gun's unloaded. We've talked about our grip, our stance, and our draw. We talked about putting it in the holster and doing safety security scan before we holster it and making sure our weapon's functioning. And we're getting closer to moving to some shooting. All right, now a couple of things we haven't talked about are some things we have on the weapon. All right, and if you'll notice here, all these weapons have a set of sights on them. Okay, and we need to know how to utilize these sights. And beyond utilizing the sight, we need to know how to operate the trigger. Okay, when we talk about sights, we talk about sight alignment. Sight alignment, the basic definition of it is the relationship between the front sight and the rear sight, having the front sight centered and leveled and the rear sight notch. Okay, and my focus of concentration on the sights needs to be on the front sight. All right, when I line it up on the target, I should see a clear image of the front sight superimposed over the target. The target will be a little bit blurry. The rear sight's going to be a little bit blurry. But that clear tip of that front sight post is where the impact, I'm going to make the impact of the bullet happen on that target. All right, so wherever I intend to strike the target with the bullet, the clear tip of that front sight post is what I need to concentrate on. Now, along with that, I need to talk about trigger control. And I'm going to run a quick systems check, make sure my weapon is unloaded here, no magazine, chamber's empty. Okay, and I'm going to talk about manipulation of the trigger. All right, when I manipulate the trigger, I should draw it straight, press it straight to the rear. All right, I shouldn't add any extra motion in there. So I place probably just the front pad on my finger on the trigger, and I'll start pressing it straight to the rear until the hammer falls. Now when the hammer falls, I should see no movement, no extra movement in the weapon system. Okay, so I'm going to reset that trigger and recock it, and then I'm going to press it out, line up my sights on the target, and I'm going to press the trigger straight to the rear. Okay, so I didn't get any extra movement in the weapon system, and that's the desirable outcome for this, because if I disturb the sights while manipulating the trigger, my bullet placement is going to be off. All right, so the goal here is to keep that front sight on that target and manipulate the trigger straight to the rear each time. Any extra movement is going to throw the sights off, which means the impact is going to change on the target. All right, and what I just did here on the range, no ammunition, working the triggers, what we call dry fire. And dry fire is our practice. You know, every time we shoot, that's kind of the test. All right, so I can come up here, line up my sights, press the trigger straight to the rear, and I don't see any extra movement out here. In other words, the gun doesn't nosedive here or pull off this way or that way. It just stays steady as I press it to the rear. Okay. Now you can dry fire practice just about anywhere, but again, you follow the 4 safety rules. Okay, treat it like it's loaded. Don't point at anything you're not willing to destroy. Keep your finger off the trigger till your sights are on target and you're ready to shoot. Be sure you're target and beyond. Also, if you're going to dry fire practice, make sure the weapon is unloaded and all the ammunition is put away. Put it away in another room, lock it up, and do your dry fire practice. This will help you become a better shooter.